I wanted to reflect on a statement that's said in the Arabic language, and we tend to use this and write it down quite often in English. Okay, and it's actually this. I'll write it down so it makes life a lot easier. The word is in, and I'll change the writing for different words. In and the last word I'll do in blue there, which is the lafzul jalala, which is Allah. Okay, so apologies for the handwriting. I am sorry, but I'm doing this on the phone, so I'm trying to make this as neat as possible. Bear with me. So we've got inshallah. Now, it's been said in the English, for many of us who speak English, that there's a certain way of how we write this in English. Because if we don't spell it right, then it changes the meaning. The unfortunate thing is that the only meaning that you can possibly get from all this is by writing in Arabic, and that's the honest truth. English doesn't do any justice at all anyway, and with Arabic is a oral language. It was always an oral tradition, so it's how you actually say it that covers meaning behind it, and how you write it, you can understand grammatically what you mean. Now, in English, what you don't have is you don't have this. You don't have these things. Now, what is that? These are case endings, okay? I'll write it down, case endings. Now, what do I mean by case endings? In Arabic, we call this i'rab. I'rab. Now, what do we mean by i'rab? Okay, now the signs on the words give us the idea of the functionality of that particular word. What is it actually doing in a sentence, in a statement, or whatever? But it gives you a flavor of what's actually happening. Now, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this here just for now. We'll come back to it, inshallah. Because I've used the word there, we'll come back to it. But what does it mean? This word means if Allah wills it. Okay, we understand this statement. I think we understood when we pass this statement on through text, or when we say it, we know what it means. But I'm going to give you an understanding of this particular function here. What does this mean? This sign. This is what really is important, and this gives an idea of what this sign actually does for the word in that statement. So I'm going to look at something from the Quran here, and this is in Surah Al-Baqarah, and it is in ayah number 251. And the words in particular which interest me are this one: وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. Okay, now I'm going to take that back to here, and I'm going to write it down so I can explain it a lot better. So I'm going to dismiss the wa, which is the waw al-atf. It's a connective. Okay, and I'm just going to go straight on to qatala. Qatala. Again, apologies for the messy handwriting. I'm doing my best here, but I think I would want to explain it. I hope my explanation does justice. So, qatala, dawu, do, and then I'll change the writing for jaluta. Jaluta. Now, in Arabic, well, in English or in any language, I'd imagine you would have nominal sentences. Now, what do nominal sentences mean? A nominal sentence is a typical sentence like the book is open or the shop is closed. These are nominal sentences. It kind of tends to have is in the middle. I'm going to give you as an example. It's not all the time, but as an easy example, I'll give you that. So the shop is open. Okay, so it covers this word here. Something is something. This, as a typical example. Typically, that's what a nominal sentence is. Now, a verbal sentence works a little bit differently because you'll have an action word in there. So I could say, I wrote a book, or he ate a sandwich, where ate and wrote are the verbs. Now, I'm going to write this in English so it gives a better feel to what I'm actually trying to suggest is happening here. So this means David, and I'll change that, killed. David killed Goliath. That is a G, I can assure you. So David killed Goliath. Okay, now a few things here. What's happening here? This word killed, as I explained, this is a verb. I'm going to put V for verb. So in Arabic, it's exactly the same, a verb. So that's where the verb is. Now, the difference here is this. What is the function? Now, I did this in the Lafzul Jalala in my first image that I wrote. Okay, I showed you a Dhamma. Now, what is the functionality of this? And what is the functionality of that? It gives me a flavor of what's happening. Now, the word qatala, what does that mean? That means killed. Now, in this killed, the word, what shall I say in this one? The word here that is hidden is actually he. In other words, he killed. Now, you probably think, who are we talking about? What do you mean he killed? Who is he? Who are we talking about? He. Okay, so we don't actually know who the he is at this stage if we just take this word on face value. But what we do know is that somebody has done the killing. Now, who's done the killing? We now look at this. This means the person who has done the killing. This is now what we call in the English language the subject. Okay, so this I'm going to put an S over here, and I'm going to put an S over here. This is the subject. Now the subject is the one who's done the killing. Now in Arabic we call this the fa'il. Okay, the fa'il. What does fa'il mean? The fa'il, this is fa'ilun, but we don't normally pronounce that last bit over there. The fa'il is the doer. D-O-E-R. Now, the doer is the one who's doing the action. Okay, that's the subject doer. They do the action. That's called the fa'il. Okay, now the fa'il is doing the action to the object. Okay, this is the object. The object is the one that the action has been done to. Right, now, how do we know it's the object? By this sign over here. Okay, this in Arabic we call it the maf'ul bihi. Maf'ul. I'll write that a lot better. Sorry, maf'ul bihi. Okay, the action done to it. Maf'ul bihi. Okay, so this means the direct object. So we now have the subject doer, who's doing the action, and we now have the object of the statement. So we've had the verb, so we know that that's the verb. So we know qatala means killed, or he killed. Now in translation, what you might find is, if we go here, it says and killed. Okay, now in that killed, it actually means he killed. Now who is the he? We don't know who the he is until we look at the vowel sign on this, the last vowel sign on Dawudu. And who's been killed? Jaluta. How do we know that? Because of the sign on the end, the fatha. So I'm going to go back to here. So I said the subject is because of this sign here, and the object is because of this sign here. So we know from here, this is the one who's done the killing, and this is the one who has been killed. Now, the good thing about this is that I'm going to get rid of these. So VSO. Typically in a standard Arabic sentence, a verbal sentence, you'll have the structure as VSO, verb, subject, object. Okay, that's typical. That's what would happen. Now, what I said previously is that in qatala, the fa'il is actually there. It's hidden. So we have the he is already in there. He killed. Okay, we don't know who he is at this stage. Okay, so if I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get rid of Dawudu altogether. Obviously, I'm giving utmost respect to the Quran here. I'm just giving you a simple grammatical understanding of this sentence. I would not in a million years would I start playing around with the words of the Quran. Never. But I'm just giving you an example of Quranic Arabic, that what would happen here if I removed this name, I got rid of it, and I just kept Qatala and Jaluta. Well, you'd still make sense of this. absolutely would make sense. Why? Because you could say this would be translated as he killed, if I can get the D in there, well, he killed Goliath. So you'd say he killed Goliath. So we know Goliath is dead, and we know that somebody killed him. The only problem is that we just don't know who at this stage. Okay, that's if the wudu was removed. But it's because of this sign we know that this is the person who has been killed. We know that Goliath is the one who has been killed. Now, just to give flavor to this statement, I'm going to go to Surah Ar-Rahman. Okay, now if it loads down, the very first word is Ar-Rahmanu. Now, if you look at the way it ends in a Dhamma. Now, I did say to you that typical verbal sentence is VSO. The verb comes first, the subject comes next, which has a Dhamma, and then the object comes last, which has a Fatha. Now, here it's a bit different. We've got Ar-Rahmanu. Now, we haven't got anything else. We have one word translated as the most merciful. Okay, but we know this is the subject. Now, if we go to the next ayah, we have Allama. Now, Allama is a verb. Okay, this is a verb. This means he taught. He taught. Who is he? Who is he? Okay, the he is this, the most merciful. Why? Because it's got a Dhamma on the end. Okay, now he taught what? What did he teach? He taught the Al-Qur'ana. Now, if you look at the noon on top, what do you see? We see a fatha. Okay, that is the object of the verbal sentence. Now, if you notice, this is Al-Allama Al-Qur'ana. Okay, I'm going to say the last vowel sign on the noon just as a grammatical bit of evidence. Now, in these two words, it doesn't actually give you the subject. The subject is actually hidden in the allama. Okay, the he, the fa'il, the doer is hidden in the allama. The only way we recognize it is if we go to the previous verse. Ar-Rahman, that's the one who's doing the action. So this translates in this verse as taught the Quran. We go to the next verse. Khalaqal insana. Okay, again, khalaqa means created. It's got here created man as translation, but the he is hidden in khalaqa. Okay, because that's the way verbs work. The fa'il is hidden in there. Who's done the creating, or who's created? Ar-Rahman. Why? Because there's a dhamma on there. Now, what has the fa'il, the doer, created? The fa'il has created al-insana, mankind. Why? Why is that the object? Because it has a fatha on the end. Okay, so we know who's done the creating, and we know who the creating has been done for, the al-insana. Again, allamahu al-bayana. Again, I'm using grammatical, I'm saying words separately just to give you a grammatical flavor here. So allama, who, the who here is he. So allama, taught. So he taught al-bayana, eloquence. Eloquence here, bayan means somebody who can speak for themselves, basically. So this will be translated as he taught basically how to speak, or man, how to speak for himself. Okay, how to speak for himself. Who done the action? You'll have to go back to here again. Ar-Rahmanu. Why? Because of the Dhamma, the last Dhamma on the Ar-Rahman. Okay, so this is where this counts, and this is vital, so we know who's doing the action in the actual statement. So from this, Qatala Dawudu Jaluta, we know that this is the verb. Okay, the he is hidden in there. Dawudu is the one who's doing the action. Why? Because of this sign here. And the action has been done to who? This one here. Why? It's Jaluta who's the action has been done to. Why? Because it's got a fatha, and this means this is the object. This was the subject, and the object is Jaluta. So when we go back to Insha'Allah, I want you to reflect on the word Allah and remember what the case ending was, because it was a Dhamma. Now, In English, how would you explain that? It's impossible to, because English is flawed when it comes to case endings. Okay, so I'm hoping this has been a good reflection on what the verb, the function of a verb is, what the function of the subject is, and what the function of the object is in the Arabic language. So we have the verb, which is called fi'l. We have the subject, which is called the fa'il, the doer of the action, and then we have the object, which is called the maf'ul bihi, the object, the direct object, basically.